What's going on, my brother? How you doing today?
Good, brother. I'm
Good.
blessed. Yep.
Blessed. All right. Well, thanks for being here. We're just gonna conversate, man, and I want to know a little bit about more of what you're about, my brother. And I forgot to give you some applause there, real quick.
Thank you.
Yeah, everybody standing. Thank you. Thank you. All right, I think we're good on that. Okay, my brother, you are. Tell us your name real quick.
Jose Quintanilla.
All right, and I've known brother Jose for it's already going on 3 years, right, brother?
It's 2.5.
Getting
far,
close
yeah,
to 3 years, and brother has. I wouldn't say bigger and better things, but you guys will be just here for another 6 months, and we'll kind of talk about that a little bit too. But brother, what is? Tell us a little bit about your background. I don't want to say it, so I'm gonna let you say it, and you can just start where you're from, where you grew up, and then we'll get into other questions after that.
Okay. Yeah. So I was born in Mexico, and my family comes from ranches. And at the age of 6 months, my parents decided that they wanted to come, to the United States. And they were able to seek a visa to be able to do that, and we ended up settling in Houston, and that's where I grew up, in a small little town called Galena Park.
Okay, and your parents were from Mexico?
Yes, yes.
Nice. All right. Well, it's always a big topic these days, but as far as immigration, but hey, that's what we're made of. The country is made of, built of a nation of immigrants, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, growing up in the Houston area, I've been there several times, but never come close to living there. But I grew up in Dallas, so we have some similarities, I'm sure. Of course, besides we say we're better than y'all, and y'all say y'all are better than us, right? But where did you graduate? When did you graduate? And what were some of your thoughts during graduation of what you would do moving forward?
So I grew up, like I said, in Galena Park, and we were in a evangelical church, somewhat fundamentalist, some would say. It was pretty strict. There was a lot of, maybe things that were regulated, or some would say legalistic, within the way that they practiced their faith. I'm talking about things like, you have to wear long sleeves, or women could wear pants and stuff, stuff like that. But I ended up graduating from a private academy. It was a Christian academy.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it wasn't accredited by the state of Texas.
Uh-oh.
So I found myself, when I considered enlisting in 1995, I had some roadblocks, because the recruiter was like, "Hey, oh, by the way, you can enlist, but the school's not accredited by the state of Texas, so you're gonna have to get your GED."
Wow.
And 15 credit hours of college, and that was a whole experience, because nobody in my family had ever been in the military, and nobody had really gone to college either. So I had to figure all that out. I didn't know that a normal school load of college was 12 to 15 credit hours a semester. So here I am taking two courses per semester, thinking like, I'm doing really good. So it took me a little bit longer to get the 15 credit hours that were the requirements. GED wasn't really an issue. Fortunately, the private academy, it was decent, and so I was able to take the test without any issue. But the 15 credit hours, not having any mentors, any coaches or anybody like that from the community that could show me the way, and a lot of it was trial and error and figuring it out, one thing at a time.
So did you go to a community college there in Houston area?
Yeah, so I did. I went to San Jacinto Community College, North Campus, and So I started taking basic courses. I actually took the EMT
Okay.
courses for emergency management
Oh,
technician
nice.
because I was interested in the medical field, and I had a passion for like helping people, and I thought that maybe someday I could become a doctor. That was a dream, but um, the Lord had other things for me.
Other things. So you primarily were desiring to get in the military at some point, as
Yeah,
soon
so
as you could.
yeah, you know the drive for the military stemmed from the fact that when I was a kid, my buddies and I, we'd hang out at the library a lot, and we just, we'd look through the old books, World War One, World War Two, Korean War, Vietnam, and we'd look at these books, and it was always something that we were passionate about. We'd do our little special operations in the backyard, and we'd dig holes and put water and to trap,
Nice.
um, you know, and we put the little screen on top of the hole, that muddy water, and leaves on top, and then my friend's mom fell into the hole, and she wasn't very happy with that one.
Yeah, well, that's cool. I'm thinking back on me. I don't think I really did. I guess I wasn't heavily influenced. Not that you were, but I didn't have a lot of military family in the military, so uh, that was my deal. But I do remember playing. I think every boy plays either Cowboys and Indians or Army men. I used to have Army men. I used to love those guys. But so you ended up joining.
Yeah, so initially my drive was the Marine Corps.
Okay.
So I found myself working at Davis Chevrolet in Pasadena, Texas, and I was a porter there. I would detail cars and whatnot, and I saw two Marines walk in one day. They were bringing in a car for something, and these guys were wearing their, the the really nice uniform,
Oh,
with
okay.
the
The
white
dress.
hat,
The
the
dress.
dress
Oh,
uniform,
nice.
right? Yeah, the black top, with the bloodline on the pants,
Oh,
and
yeah.
man, I saw that, and I was a young kid, and I was like, man, that looks so cool.
Yeah.
Like, I'd love to be a part of something like that, and to be able to wear a uniform and serve. And I knew that at that time, I was like, this is my time, and going back to the church, I knew that there was an aversion within the church with anything that had to do with the military. They still had this, I guess, this feeling that the military was, were drunkards and drug addicts. And I think a lot of what happened in Vietnam was in the back of a lot of people's minds. And so the military was never something that within the church was ever pushed. But I was like, I felt this desire,
Mhm.
and I was like, if I don't do it now, I'm not going to be able to do it later, right? Once you're too old, uh, they won't allow it. And so I said, now is my moment, and I kind of felt like I'm going to get a lot of pushback because there was a lot of people within the church that thought like, hey, Freddie, you should become a pastor or an evangelist someday. I had been given some opportunities to witness and to preach, and I felt a calling, and that's something that's never left me. But at the same time, I felt the urge and the call to serve this great country, and to be able to do that. And I was like, I need to take a stand, and I did get that pushback. There was a lot of people that are like, oh no, don't do that. It's like
Mhm.
you're gonna ruin your life if you join the military. You're gonna become a drunk, or you're gonna go into you're gonna make some bad decisions along the way. It's gonna be terrible for you. But the Lord's been faithful these past 28 years.
Okay.
He's really blessed me throughout the whole course of my time in the military.
Now, before you joined, though, let's step back just a little bit. Didn't you tell me you lived in Washington State for a little
Yeah,
bit?
so
Was
I
that
did.
before?
Yeah, that was before.
Okay.
So when I was like 17 years old, I felt this urge to support a mission. And we were opening a church in Pasco, in the Pasco, Kennewick, Tri-Cities Cities area. And and I just felt the calling. They needed somebody to help, and I felt passionate about that. And I was like, told my dad and mom, I'm like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna help. I feel the calling from the Lord, and I went and I started school there. And it was a private school as well as affiliated with the church. And I just, there was something about going to the school there. It may have been just the way that it was being administered that there was something just felt wrong for me. And it may have been also the fact that I was at a point in my time when I didn't value education,
Okay.
right? And so thinking and the thought process for me, I remember it well. I mean, this I was 17 and here I am at 48, so it's been a while. But I
Little while.
remember it like if it was just yesterday. And the thought process for me was, if I quit school, but a soul is saved along the way, then that soul, made it worth it.
It's worth it.
And so I was like, I'm gonna renounce school and I'm gonna just get a job and then focus all my other attention to witnessing to people, and like visiting the apartment complexes and doing stuff like that, trying to minister to others.
You didn't ride a
And-
bicycle though, did you?
no, I
Okay.
would walk everywhere, but I'll tell you this: not one soul came to Christ because of me
That you know of.
that I know of in those 11 months that I was there. And not only that, but the experience of having dropped out of high school, the different jobs that I ended up having, starting off with an Arby's part-time job that was paying $4.25, as I'm making roast beef sandwiches. I still have a picture, and I was looking at it the other day. I posted it on my social media. And then posted a picture of now, as a commander of a squadron in the Air Force. And nothing that I say here, obviously, um, is are the views of the Air Force. These are my personal views, of course. But, I think about just how great God can be, that even though we make mistakes in life, God allows us to learn from them and to be able to recover in time. And I remember one of the last jobs that I had was as a landscaper.
Okay.
And-
Nothing wrong with that.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But I was a young man at 17, a high school dropout. And I remember we used to go mow within these gated communities, like some of the mansions by the river there, I think it's the Columbia River. And man, I mean, gosh, these homes were just beautiful. They were mansions, and the carpet was weed free.
Oh, the grass.
The grass.
Oh,
The grass was
nice.
like carpet. This is what I meant to say. It was like carpet, man. I mean, it was like the bushes, everything was like pristine. And I remember as I'm mowing the lawn, and the boss is screaming at us, hurry up, time is money, time is money. And I'm thinking, like, what's the common denominator here? How is it that these people can have all these things? And when you have that aha moment in your life, and you all of a sudden you figure it out by divine intervention or whatever you want to call it. I felt like, whoa, it's like all these people are professionals. And then, you start peeling that onion, right? And you're like, well, why are they professionals? Well, and you're like, oh, shoot. They all have a degree or a certification or something or
business
license,
or something,
right?
yeah.
And what does it take to get that? Education,
Right.
right? And so at that moment, I felt, the question really impact me, like, do you want to do this for the rest of your life? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having a landscaping business and doing that. That's nothing wrong. It was my experience. The question was like, do you want to do this for the rest of your life? You're 17. Is this all you want to do in life? And in my mind and in my heart, having withstood 3 months of hot summer, or the summer months, I was like, yeah, no, I think I'll pass.
Yeah. And it wasn't the Texas heat though, right?
No, but it was still very, very hot because it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of desert-like,
Mm-hmm.
and and I just felt, impressed in my mind. Well, then you need to get back to school,
There you go. Yeah,
and
definitely.
I thought, no day in the library studying for an exam or to prepare for a class is going to be as hot as this one right now. And since that moment on, that was my
Well,
motivation.
that's cool. Well, bro, I think if you were in the Texas heat, it might have not been 3 months. It might have been 1 week.
Right.
Well, that's that. Hey, I remember. I still to this day, when I do yard work, I still have that feeling like you. I'm like, what am I doing out here?
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
awesome. And then so you ended up coming back to Texas and starting
Yeah.
your college, right?
Yes, yes. Well, I came back to Texas and went back to the private academy,
Oh, okay.
and finished up the year. I actually, worked hard to. It was self-paced, so the more time you spent on the assignments, the faster you got through the program, and I was able to finish up what I needed to get done within that next year. And in May of 1995, I graduated from the private academy and started college the following month because
Yeah.
I was committed at that point. Like, hey, you know what? This education thing is kind of important, and so it took me having to be a dropout and having to have some tough experiences in the world and figuring out like, hey, you don't make a lot of money when you don't have education.
Right.
You should prioritize that as part of your life. So for all the young kids out there that may be listening, I'd encourage you, don't pass up education. Many say that that's the great equalizer.
Okay, cool. Well, that's certainly something that a lot of kids need encouragement because even myself, remembering back, I wasn't a very good student, but I did go on to college. But so at that point, bro, you enlisted in. I know you said you were interested in Marines.
Yeah. So I was interested in the Marines, and as I'm going to school, trying to get those 15 credit hours, I started asking Marines that were out of the service. They had already separated, but they lived in my community in Galena Park. And I was like, hey, what's your experience with the Marines, and how do you like it? And everybody was so proud of having served. And I mean, hands down, Marines, they have a pretty awesome spirited core.
Yes.
I mean, these guys are once a Marine, always a Marine. It doesn't matter if you just served 4 years. You're a Marine for life. And so these guys are very, very proud. They have a lot of heritage, a lot of traditions. But they would ask me, they're like, well, what do you want? What do you want from the Marines? I was like, well, I want to be able to go to school. And they were like, hey, then you probably don't want to join the Marines because we're in the field all the time. And you got to remember, this is before 9/11. Also, this was in 1995. And they're like, no, if you want to go to school while you're serving, you should join the Air Force because it's more like a regular job. And I was like, okay, Air Force, I hadn't even considered that. So that was kind of what, made me consider the Air Force and go speak with an Air Force recruiter.
Okay, and where boot camp was far away.
Yeah, so I grew up in Houston, right? So boot camp is San Antonio, Texas.
Oh,
So
that's not
yeah,
far.
so I walked into the recruiter's office, and sure enough, they do this pre-ASVAB, which is it's kind of where are your strengths, where are your weaknesses? Are you more of a mechanical individual? Or are you more administrative? And that kind of pairs you up to what type of career field. And I got like the logistics apprentice career field. I had no idea what that meant. I didn't know that meant supply.
Okay.
And sure enough, they're like, here, sign the dotted line. You're going to be a logistics apprentice once you go through basic military training in Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. I'm like, roger that for 4 years. I couldn't do 6, so I couldn't come in with like 2 stripes for signing a contract of 6 because I wasn't a U.S. citizen at the time either.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So yeah, I had to, and they only let you serve one enlisted. Well, at least they did back then. I think still the same. But you need to become a United States citizen if you want to serve longer than 4. And that's what I had to do during my first enlistment at Dyess Air Force Base here in San Angelo, or in Abilene,
Abilene.
Texas. Yeah.
Okay.
Near
Yeah.
San Angelo. But
Right. And so after that, where did it take you? What was your first like exciting? I know Abilene.
yeah.
No offense, Abilene, but
No.
what was your first
Yeah.
exciting location?
Yeah.
with the
So I was in Abilene, and sure enough, as a young single airman, there wasn't a lot to do there. So we'd venture off on the weekends at times.
to San Angelo? No.
Not San Angelo, but we'd go down to Dallas,
Okay,
right?
good.
So we didn't have cars, so we'd have to rent a car, and this is back in 1996 and stuff. But yeah, we'd go down there. We had a church down there, so it's not like I'd go party, but the guys would go to their I guess to the clubs and stuff.
Do
like
their
that.
thing.
I was serving the Lord, and so we had a church down there, and I'd go visit
On the
our
weekends.
church for the weekend, and then we'd drive back on Sunday afternoon. But because there wasn't a lot going on, I was really interested in deploying, and an opportunity that I had was to be a part of Operation Southern Watch in 1998, in the summer of 1998, from June of '98 to October. And I tell you, man, it gets hot in Saudi Arabia during the
yeah.
summer. Like 135 degrees. I was like, oh my gosh, it's like in Houston when it's really hot, and then you break down on the side of the road and you open your hood up, and all that hot air comes out from the engine compartment. That's what it felt like walking
man.
around. It was horrible. I never complained about Abilene after I got back from deployment.
So how long were you in Saudi?
It was a 4-month deployment.
Okay.
It was a 4-month deployment, but as a young airman first class, an E3, but I learned a lot. I used to suffer from acne. When I was there, I used to suffer from acne. I had been suffering ever since like I was 15, 16 years old, and
Teenager.
I remember one of the situations, one of the experiences that I had there, because I would always like, why God, why me? Like, I love you, Lord. Like, why would you put this affliction upon me?
Wow.
And it just felt terrible because, I had kind of an aggressive form, and it's painful.
Oh yeah.
Any teenager that has it, nobody says, "Oh, this is great." Every time you look at the mirror, you're like, "Oh shoot, why do I have more?"
Definitely can relate.
And so I remember being so afflicted and demoralized and depressed by it, and I tell God, like, Lord, I'm serving you. Why would you allow me to have this? And I remember one day, as I was sitting in our tent. We had a little vestibule area towards the front of the tent, separate from the kind of the sleeping quarters. We were sharing about 12 guys, one large tent, and we had this little like area where we had a TV and a couple couches. And there was this kid from South America or Central America, and his arms and his legs were. When he was born, they were backwards, right? So instead of folding one way, they fold the opposite, right? So take your knees and flip them.
Like double jointed.
180, right? But they wouldn't, so they wouldn't stretch out like us that we can walk.
Gotcha.
They would fold into the chest area, and then they would fold out like in an L. And so this young man would have to walk everywhere on his hands.
He was in the military?
No. This was just a report. I think it was like Doctors Without Borders or something. They were doing
Okay,
a
gotcha.
report, and how they help these, these young men and women that have these physical afflictions, and how they do the surgeries for free, and they fly
okay, I
them.
know what you're talking about.
They
Yes,
fly
sir.
them to the United States to a hospital, and they do these surgeries, and help out these poor families. And I remember when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, God. It really broke me down. I was like, God, I'm so sorry. Here I am complaining, right? Because I have some acne that someday will clear up.
Right.
But this young man, he was born this way.
I got you. Yeah.
and he'll always bear the marks, you know.
Yes.
And in his case, there's some surgery that's supposed to correct that, but he's still always going to have some sort of limitation.
Right.
And I just felt at that point like I shouldn't complain, because anytime that you think you got it bad, there's a lot of other people that got it a lot worse.
Oh, definitely.
You know, so that was kind of my, being confronted with, yeah, it's not fun what you're going through, this trial, but you know what? Praise God, because there's a reason why you're going through it,
Yes.
and learn from it, right?
Hmm.
Sometimes we can be very ungrateful with all the wonderful things God gives us.
Yes. It's not hard, brother. Definitely.
Hmm.
And so, where was your, where did you go next?
Yeah, so I came back to Dyess Air Force Base, and in December of 1999, I decided to join the reserves. I had been going to college, but when you're going to college and working full time, you can do partial.
Right.
Definitely.
Definitely.
If you want to keep your grades up, that is, and so I was like, man, I need to continue to get after this. My drive was to become an officer.
Okay.
When I was first enlisted, that first enlistment, I was like, like I said, nobody in my family had ever been military within the U.S. military or whatnot, and so nobody had ever explained to me, there's a difference between being an enlisted personnel and being an officer, and I was like, man, I'd like to be an officer too someday. I think I could do that, and so anyways, that was my drive as a young E3. I saw the pay table. And what really struck me was that a chief master sergeant back in the day, a chief master sergeant of 20 years was making exactly the same as a captain that had just promoted with 4 years of service. And from there, the pay table, the scale just goes up for the officer side of the house. And so, I was encouraged by, having a better salary, but also because of the opportunity to be able to serve in a different capacity, right? Take on more of a leadership role and whatnot. And so that was intriguing to me, to be able to do more of the management side, which bears its own burden, right?
Yes. Not easy.
Yeah, especially now as a commander, there's a burden on all commanders, and that is that, hey, everything that happens is on you, right? So, we have to be very mindful of all the things that are going on within the unit to make sure that we have a resilient organization that's able to meet the requirements of the mission.
Okay. So, where are you now? Not to cut it short, but you've been in how long have you been in already?
Yeah, so I've been in for 28 years. I ended up serving 12 years as an enlisted man. So I was a tech sergeant by the time that I went to officer training school. And the reason that it took so long for me to get my degree was 9/11 happened, right?
Okay.
So I got out, joined the reserves, and in 2001, September 2001, I was a staff sergeant, and 9/11 happened, and we were activated a number of times, and so that ended up delaying my getting my degree and being able to apply for officer training school.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So fortunately, I was blessed with getting picked up. Not the first time, but I got picked up the second time. The squadron commander that had done my interview as a staff sergeant said, "Hey," she said, "Q, if for whatever reason they don't pick you the first time, because it's once a year, reapply the following year." And I was getting up in age. I was already over 30 by the time that I started applying. And so I didn't have a lot of time on my side to continue to reapply. But I was very fortunate in 2009 to be able to go to officer training school, and I was selected to become a logistics readiness officer.
Nice.
Yeah. So we've had some wonderful, wonderful assignments, starting off at Yokota Air Base in Tokyo, Japan. And then the Air Force was like, we're gonna, I applied for a master's in logistics and supply chain management, and I thought it was gonna be easy because I had spent 15 years already by that time doing supply, doing logistics, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be a breeze. And I was selected to go to the Air Force Institute of Technology at Wright-Patterson, Ohio, in 2012. And man, that first quarter, they threw calculus at me and managerial statistics and fundamentals of logistics, which has a lot of functions, formulas, and whatnot. There was a lot of math, and I kid you not, it was so hard because I'm not very math. I'm not very strong on the math front, but the Lord was so good. The Lord
Got you
was so
through it.
good, and with the help of my peers, I had some really, really great peers that were able to explain things to me, or as others would say, they would dumb it down so I could understand. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, I get it now. And we were able to overcome the 18-month master's program. But I just, I thank God. I thank my family that were there. And I thank my peers that supported me along the way, because there's no way.
Talk about not leaving anybody behind. They don't
Yeah.
want to leave you behind, right?
Well, we as men, sometimes we're very proud, right?
Yes.
And so sometimes we feel like, I don't need anybody, right? I can do it alone. And we're struggling. And if we would just humble ourselves and say, hey, bro, help me, man. I'm lost here, I'm over here, I'm drowning, give me a hand here. And so
Help a brother out,
help
right?
me out. Man. So I it was a humiliating lesson for me to finally have to accept the fact that, man, I can't do it all. You can work as hard as you want, but there's a point in your life where you need somebody else to give you a hand.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And I'm trying not to skip any parts because I know you, brother. I know most of your story, but tell us a little bit about your family and how that developed. Where were you?
Yeah. So, man, I've been so blessed. I remember I was 16 years old, and a good friend of mine, we're so committed to God. We're on fire for Jesus. And Alex Flores is his name. And one day Alex comes to me and he's like, hey, man, we gotta find ourselves wives, And I'm thinking like, really, we do? He's like, yeah, man, because, we got to find a good woman and this and that. And so I started praying in earnest at 16. I started praying, Lord, give me a good woman, Lord. And sure enough, here I am. I'm trying to do all these things, right? Trying to progress, trying to do better in life and trying to be successful. And year after year, man, it just doesn't happen. And, I celebrate my anniversaries in the military on the 4th of December. In '96 is when I joined. So every 4th, I'd go out and go celebrate, or maybe on Veterans Days, when the restaurants are giving food
Yeah.
to the veterans, I'd go out and it's always me alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd always I got tired of just eating alone. And so I'd end up taking my U.S. News and World Report, my magazine, just because, I was like, okay, we didn't have, cell phones back in the day, right?
Right.
So,
I remember those days.
but I remember, I'd look across, I'd scan the restaurant, and sometimes, I'd be at the restaurant and there I'd see the couples, and I'd be like, man, why can't I have that too, And I kid you not, man, it took 10 years. It took 10 years by that time. I was at Morón Air Base, Spain in 2003. And supporting the war that was about to kick off in Iraq in March of 2003, and so we're there at Morón, and I used to go to the dining facility because that's where we ate. Then we got 3 square meals a day, and so there was this young girl there, beautiful Spanish girl. And I'd watch her, and oh my gosh, she was so beautiful. And I finally mustered up enough courage. She would serve me these hefty plates Every time I'd go down the line, I was always looking out for her. Or she'd come out and she'd ask if she could take my empty plate of food, if she was like attending to the tables and stuff. And finally, I mustered up enough courage one day when I went through the line. I was like, look, and I said it in Spanish, which always makes anything more romantic, of
Oh
course.
yeah, definitely.
Right? And I said, look, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, and I hope you don't get offended. But I think you have the most beautiful eyes I've ever seen in my life. And that was it. That was the hook that did it.
I'm taking notes right now, bro.
Yeah, that was the hook that did it. So my wife Sylvia, we had a wonderful courtship in Spain, of all places, right? Beautiful historical sites.
Not much more romantic than that, bro. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I mean, we, again, so blessed to have her in my life. She has been such a rock. I was a reservist at the time, so I didn't have a regular job. Once we got deactivated, I had regular mandates on, 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks per year, and I was going to school. So I asked my parents, who would spend most of their year in Mexico in their other home, and I was like, Dad, Mom, I'm trying to finish up college, and can I ask you can we live at your house in McAllen, Texas? Because I was attending the University of Texas, Pan American. As I was trying to get my bachelor's degree in criminal justice, because I wanted to become an officer, right? I had to get my bachelor's. And they were like, yeah, son. I said, Dad, we'll take care of the house. We'll take care of the bills, and we'll buy all the food. When you guys come from Mexico, this is your house, right? We're just
Nice.
living in it while I finished the year and a half of school. And we had a wonderful agreement and just a wonderful relationship to this day. And I'm so grateful to my parents for allowing me to do that, and for, giving me grace and allowing Sylvia and me to be there relatively stress-free, and she got a job there in local community, selling wedding dresses, and, being such a strong Hispanic area, she really didn't learn English
Like she thought so.
like
Right?
she thought she was going to. But we were able to meet our objective and, get my education and then apply for OTS. And our first duty assignment was Yokota Air Base in Japan in 2009.
So when you got married, was any of your family able to go to Spain? Or?
Yeah, so my sister and my brother-in-law were the only two family members that were able to make the trip. And yeah, so there's a picture. It's comical because you got like me and my sister and my brother-in-law, and then all her family like next to her. It's really lopsided.
Yeah, well, it is not cheap to fly to
No,
Europe,
no,
right?
no. Yeah, but
Okay.
I'm so blessed. We have two kids. They're 13 and 14, two boys, and the Lord is blessing us, and we're going through the challenge of having teenagers at home, and all the
The fun that
challenges
comes with it.
Yeah, the challenges that come with hormone changes and defiant attitudes and behaviors, and pressing the boundaries and whatnot. So the Lord's giving us grace.
Oh, definitely. Well, that's good, brother. And you're here in San Angelo for about 6 more months, right?
more
Before
months,
you go to the next assignment.
Yeah, we're waiting for January. We're in December now, but waiting for January for assignments to be published.
All right.
But
All
we'll
right.
see.
Well, I also wanted to touch. That's an awesome story so far. So it's
Thank you.
I've learned a lot since I've known you about the military. But also like to touch on what happened to you a few years ago. Obviously, being in the military, you had to keep some sort of fitness regimen.
Yeah. So
And tell us a little bit about that experience.
So in 2021, I was in school for another. It's called intermediate development education for majors and lieutenant colonels, and I was a major at the time. And again, the Lord works in mysterious ways, and I was selected for one of the a commander told me it's a Gucci school. They call it because it's not your traditional, you know, Air Force campus. They sent me to an Army school, and it was the general staff and command staff command college, and so, but it was in Spanish. So
Interesting.
it's called the Western Hemisphere Institute for Security Cooperation. It apparently it had a rebranding. It used to be called the School of the Americas many years ago, but apparently half the dictators of the world went through it.
Oh,
No,
interesting.
like Noriega and I think Pinochet as well. But so, anyways, it went through a form of rebranding, and now they teach, you know, ethics and you know, human rights as elective courses as well. Mandatory, but you still have to take them. But you know, so got done with that school, and our assignment was to go to Davis Mountain in Tucson, Arizona, and my career track was going to change from being a logistics readiness officer to a foreign area officer, focused on Latin American affairs. And you know, I remember doing the drive from from Georgia to Tucson. I remember having a burden as we're, you know, it's far, but I had this burden. I just kept thinking like, you know what, everything has gone so perfectly, yeah, in my career, you know, and I felt like, when are we going to be challenged? When are we going to be tested? Because we haven't. Everything's been perfect. Everything has blossomed. Everything has been multiplied. It's been success after success, award after award, promotion after promotion, school after school, great assignment after great assignment, great job after great job. And I was like, when are we going to be tested? I felt this strong burden. And we hadn't really been raising the kids in church either, right? So we were kind of doing our thing, focused on the career.
Gotcha.
And I felt a burden like, you know what? We need to seek the Lord. I know what it is to be faithful to God, and I haven't really been faithful to God these past so many years. You know, yeah, we pray, we read the Bible, we go through the motions, right? But we're not really committed. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I felt burdened. My kids were growing. I'm like, we need to incorporate them. We need to teach them the word. They need to be able to associate, you know, with other children and learn the word of God through Sunday school and the singing of you know, songs and whatnot.
Hmm.
So we got to Tucson, and we're waiting for a house to open up on base, and we're looking for a church, and we come upon a wonderful Baptist church. And I wanted it to be in Spanish because I want the kids to learn Spanish too.
Hmm.
You know, it's been a blessing in my life to be bilingual, and I want them to have that blessing. And so we found a wonderful church in Tucson, Iglesia Bautista de Tucson. And the pastor is a really good friend of mine, Pastor Abel Ramirez. Young man, very knowledgeable. Has a master's in divinity, very studious. And so we start assisting the church. And as soon as we start going to church, the devil starts attacking.
Yeah.
So he starts attacking on the home front because, you know, family's not used to going to church
Hmm.
on Sundays. They're not used to going to church on Wednesdays. And all of a sudden we have something new in the agenda
Hmm.
that we do as a family. And so there was a lot of emotion, a lot of just unhappiness there.
Yeah.
And as all that's going on, I'm trying to get ready for my next PT test, my physical assessment. If you get an excellent, you do it every year, right? If you get a satisfactory, you do it 2 times a year, every 6 months. But, you know, so I was shooting to get that excellent. And then I had a new job, right? A role that I had never done. And they had put this huge conference, is a 4-star level conference for Latin American chiefs of staff, air chiefs of staff for the air forces of Latin American countries, Caribbean countries, and whatnot. And so I have to plan everything, from the invites to the translations to all the things, to where the venue's going to be, what's the agenda going to look like. All those things have to be, who are going to be the guest speakers and all that. So
A lot of work.
there was a lot of planning, definitely a lot of planning. So there was a lot on my plate, and but I'm committed, right? Because that's the way we are in the military. We're just committed.
What you do.
We have a target. We set some objectives, and we attack them. And as I'm prepping for my test, the fastest way to get cardio is, excuse me, is to do sprints, right? And so here I am, and I'm just, and I've been running already for a couple months, but I want to get an excellent. I want to get 100. And I'm 35 years old at the time, or I'm sorry, 45 years old. And I'm just, I'm pushing it, because I'm committed like that. And all of a sudden, I'm like 180, 183 heartbeat rate, and I go and slow down and walk and then get the heart rate down. And this last one, man, it just, something just didn't feel right. And I just felt just queasy and just like nervous, like a panic attack or something.
Mm-hmm.
The heart rate just kept up. It just wasn't really going down. And
Stayed high.
so I made my way home. I praying, Lord, what's going on, Lord? What's happening here? I've been running. I've ran marathons, and half marathons for fun. I'm like, what's going on here? I've watched my weight. I've been, and I couldn't get it down. It took over an hour to finally get under 100, and that was not normal.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought maybe it's because I just got a lot of stress on my life, all these things happening. And I'm like, oh, I'll try again tomorrow. Because we're stubborn, right? Us guys, man, we're stubborn.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of going and seeking medical attention, I'm like, no. We'll just go try it. Somebody falls down, breaks their leg. Yeah, you just walk it off, son. It'll be fine. And here I am. So the next day, I try to run. I couldn't run to the end of the block. It felt like somebody was sticking, their fist in my chest. And I was like, my gosh, well, maybe I'm still freaked out from yesterday. I'll try again tomorrow. A whole week I tried, and it just wouldn't go away. The same. So finally, I was like, okay, this is really weird for me. So I called my primary care manager, my doctor. I was like, look, this is going on. I don't know if it's because, I had COVID. Maybe I took the boosters, or I took the vaccines. Maybe it's because I took that, and some people say that it makes your heart grow. I'm not sure what's going on. And she said, okay, we're going to put you on a dead man walking profile. And I had never been, in my military career, I had never been on a profile where I couldn't do PT. I always took it very seriously. It's like, no, man, I'm going to be in shape. And so anyway, they run pulmonology, runs tests on me. And they're like, no, you're clear. You don't got nothing. Your lungs are fine. And then cardiology had to do their work. And they start with easy stuff like EKG, and then the treadmill, the stress test. And then, it keeps going up. And, it took 6 months, like from November up until January, before they figured out. Like I had two coronary arteries that were completely blocked. One was at 90%, the other one at 100%.
Wow.
And it took an angiogram to figure that out. And they're like, hey, we're sorry. We can't do stents on you. It's bad. We got to open you up. We got to harvest from your leg. And, brother, I'm telling you, I had been feeling like, all of a sudden, I'd be sitting down with the family watching TV, and all of a sudden I just feel bad, right? And I had no idea why.
Not normal,
it's like
definitely.
Not normal, like you're having a panic attack, but nothing. You were just sitting down on a couch, or I'd be driving, and I felt like I wasn't even in the car, like I was in another dimension. And I remember thinking, like, man, like I shouldn't be driving right now. I don't feel like I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that apparently, because the pump isn't working right, the brain wasn't receiving the oxygen flow, the blood flow, right? The oxygenation that it needed to have. And all these things were happening for months. And I'm like, sheesh, I didn't even know what was going on. I thought it was, I was just stressed. I thought I was
Right.
just anxious because of all the things that were happening in my life. And it was a huge test. It was a huge test, a long valley. You know, many times wake up 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. You know, you're panicking. You're like from a deep sleep, and all of a sudden you're like freaking out. And you know, what do you do? Everything's dark. You know, and so you pray. You pray a lot when you're going through something like that. And I remember I used to read Psalms 23. What a beautiful, beautiful chapter in the Bible. And, you know, it says, King David, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. That chapter became so real. I kid you not. You know, I just think about it, I get emotional because I know what it was like. You know, I don't wish it on anybody.
Right.
It was a horrible, horrible, horrible experience. And you know, I pray and I tell God, Lord, it's not about power. It's not about position. It's not about prosperity or promotions. It's not about worldly pleasures or passions. It's about you. You know? Keep everything from this world that you've given me. But don't take away my peace. Don't take away your presence. Don't take away the passion to serve you, the purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
Give me health so that I can serve you, so I can spread your word, so I can share with others. And hopefully somebody out there listens and says, you know what? I'm going to do better in my life. I'm going to seek Jesus. Because we know what right is like.
Oh yeah,
Right?
definitely.
We choose oftentimes to go the wrong way. But we know what right looks like, you know, and that's through Christ.
Amen. So, you know, I'm a little bit older than you, and I've had people in my life that have been through heart issues. And a big thing that you said, bro, is that, you know, men don't like to go to doctors. We'll get through it. It'll pass.
Mm-hmm.
So, besides when you talked about how when you're driving, you felt like you weren't there, was there anything else that you remember that
Yeah. So,
you said anxiety? What, just wake up with
yeah.
anxiety?
Yeah, I had another thing that I remember, and I didn't know why this was happening. Like I'd have these like really, like I can control the heat.
Mm-hmm.
Like my temperature control was off. I remember like sometimes I'd be like, man, it's freaking hot. You know, and I'd be like, I had to like put water on my head, and like my temperature regulation
Was that
was
whack?
off, was out
Really?
of whack, man. It was the weirdest thing. Like, you know, it probably wasn't even that hot or humid, but I just felt like, man, I'm burning up right now, to the point where I'd have to like put water and get in front of a fan to cool me down without having been exerting myself. It was just
Would you have the
oddest thing.
opposite too with chills or just the heat?
I just the
mostly.
heat. It was
Okay.
mostly just the heat, you know.
Wow.
And it was yeah, it was a terrible, terrible valley. It was a very long valley, just because, you know, it took them so long to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, you know, they did, and they were able to schedule me relatively quickly.
That's
do-
traumatic in itself.
Yeah,
I mean,
to
having
do
to
the-
say they're gonna
Yeah, so
open me up.
Yeah, so a day after my 46th birthday, on the 16th of January, is when they did the angiogram. And I remember it was a young doctor too that was going to do it. He was like, "Hey, you know, you're going to be fine. You know, if you have any blockages, we're going to take care of that. We'll put a stent or two, and you'll be good to go." Because he saw me, he was like, "Man, you're young and you're fit, man. You're in the military, like you're in shape." And then when they woke me up, they're like, "Oh man, I'm sorry, we got some bad news for you." And the excuse me, the cardiovascular surgeon was there too, and he was like, "We're gonna have to do a double bypass on you." And I was like, what? He said, yeah. I said, why? 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 I said, I follow all the rules. I did it right. I checked off all the blocks. I ate my salads. I ran. You know, I did cardio. I did a lot of cardio. And I've run over 4,000 miles, you know,
Yeah.
since I became a lieutenant. I've been very fit. He's like, it's just genetic, man.
Yeah.
It was going to happen. He's like, the silver lining is you're in shape. And you're a candidate for double bypass. Not everybody's a candidate.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And he's like, and you'll be able to recover a lot quicker. So I spent, a few days. I had to wait, right, before I get to the few days in the hospital after the double bypass. But that was the 16th of January. And I'm praying. I'm like, Lord, I'm here. He said, there's a chance. There's a chance you won't make it because it's, we're going to have to
Major
stop
surgery.
you. It's a major surgery. It's not like, you broke your foot. It's like,
Right.
this is a major surgery. And he's like, there is a small chance that you won't survive, but you have a pretty good shot at surviving this and recovering and living a full life. And, when you're told that and when they tell you, hey, get your affairs in order, and you got to go through legal at your military station, and you got to sign over, you got to have a will, and, you got to kind of sign the releases and the consents. And, what happens if you don't wake up, do you want them to turn off the machine or keep you on a
Right.
ventilator? You have to make all the things get real.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, when you're going through all those things, all the other things that you used to worry about are not really that
No.
important, And so, going through that was a huge wake-up call for me as far as, what is my purpose in life, right? Is it just chasing a career? Is it just chasing that next promotion or the next position? Or is it about, having a deeper impact in society and in mankind, regardless of how much you're getting paid? And I'm not saying that it's not important to have a career or it's not important to have a good salary, but it's more important to live well, right? And
Right.
to be a good person and to be an individual that truly has values,
Yes.
right? That you don't, your value isn't only, I want to make more money, right? I think somebody asked Rockefeller before he died, how much is enough? And I think his answer was $1 more. And so I find it now, having gone through that, like it's kind of sad, if that's your only driver in life, to maybe be powerful or to maybe have a strong or very big bank account or a retirement savings account. I think they're important, right, for life and to live comfortably, but I don't think that that's the only thing in life.
Right. I think I heard lately it's not about counting the days in your life, but making the days of your life count.
Yes. Yeah, so definitely, having had a second shot at life, having gone through that experience, I'm definitely grateful. But yeah, so that was the 16th of January, and then so I found myself, on the 18th, waking up again at 5 o'clock in the morning, with these feelings and whatnot, and of course, there's a lot of fear.
Oh yeah.
As you're looking forward to, hey, I know I'm going to have this major surgery that's gonna happen, and they scheduled it for the 25th of January. So so I knew I had 9 days to wait, and all the while, I had these feelings and whatnot. Unfortunately, they gave me at that point they gave me some medication, like
For anxiety.
for cholesterol.
Oh,
For
gotcha.
cholesterol and for the heart and stuff like that, and that kind of helped relieve some of those symptoms. But I remember on 18 January breaking through in prayer, finally getting through, and excuse me, having that peace that everything was going to be okay.
There you go.
Praying and committing myself to God and saying, Lord, I'm yours. You've already given me a fantastic life. You've blessed me with a wife, with children. You've blessed me with a wonderful career, with a wonderful family, awesome experiences. And I'm yours. Do whatever you want.
There you go.
And I remember feeling at 6 o'clock in the morning, clarity from the Lord. It's going to be all right.
Yeah.
You're going to recover. And I just felt that peace. And from that day on, I was never afraid again.
There you go.
You know, the day of the surgery, you know, it can be very nerve-wracking.
Can't even imagine.
Right?
Right.
As they prep you, as you change your clothes into the gown and whatnot, as they start the IV process, you know, as you say your last goodbyes, you know, or, you know, what could be your last goodbyes before surgery. And our pastor came out and prayed with us at that hour at 6 o'clock in the morning. My brother-in-law was there to support, you know, with the boys because Sylvia was going to be in the hospital and whatnot. But I remember I was at peace. It was all in God's hands. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, sure, there's a surgeon that was going to be doing the work. But God can give us a peace that the world can't compete with.
That's right.
You know, and I know that, you know, many people in the world, sometimes they resort to alcohol or to drugs and, you know, vices, right, to have that peace. But that's not a fulfilling peace.
No, definitely not.
You know, but the peace that Jesus gets, that's the peace right there.
Amen. Well, that's awesome, my brother. Well, that's an experience, I tell you, that you know, God put you through and He brought you out of.
Yeah.
And so, I really believe that's what why God has us here. You know, to just lean on Him, no matter what.
Absolutely.
Right? And so, brother, let me ask you this: what is your? I know God is ultimately in control, but what is the plan? Your future plans in the military? Are you staying in a little bit longer? Or?
Yeah. So I had 28 years since I joined. Part of it was in the reserve, so they're not all good years, right? It's 24 good years, 28 total years, because 4 of them were on just regular man-days and annual tours, and that doesn't count for regular years in the military. But since I joined in December of '96, I hit 28 years. Just on the 4th of this month, and I'm thinking maybe 30. You know, so a couple more years. I'm supposed to finish up Squadron Command here in the next 6 months. We're waiting for an assignment. I don't know what it will be. It'll probably be staff, whether I do staff as a logistics readiness officer, or if I go back to the foreign area career field. I'll probably do that for, you know, a couple years for another assignment. I'm shooting for 30. I'm shooting for 30 years, and then we'll see what the Lord has. I have a strong feeling that ministry is probably what the Lord wants me to do, because that was kind of my intent and my purpose before the military. But
that's what I was going to ask you. What about after military?
Yeah. So, you know, based off of everything that I've experienced in life, and I'm grateful for every single experience because it's made me who I am today.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
I value ministry. I value service to others. I think that is probably the single most important thing a human can do, is serve other humans in a capacity to help them spiritually.
Yes.
Physically too, right? Through mentorship. You know, not everybody is called to be a teacher. Not everybody's called to be a preacher. Not everybody's called to do, you know, certain aspects of ministry work, or a missionary. You know, but we're all called to do something, right? We're all called, and we're all given gifts of the Lord, whether we realize it or not. We're all given talents, kind of like the parable that Jesus said about the three men, right, that received talents. One of them received what, 5, the other one 3, and one received just 1.
Right.
And we're supposed to multiply those talents for the Lord. You definitely don't want to be the guy that hides his talent in the sand, and then the master comes back and says, "Hey, what'd you do with my talent? Did you invest?" No, sir, I hid it. I was afraid. You don't want to be that guy.
No, definitely
Right?
not.
And I think that we're called, right, to in one way, shape, or form, to be able to minister to others with the talents that God has given us, and having this second shot at life.
There you go.
I want to be able to do something, that's a little bit more in line with the Great Commission,
Okay.
which is, spreading the word, spreading the message, and maybe using the experiences that God has given me along the way to help encourage young people to really set their sights on Jesus.
Amen.
Regardless of what they decide to do in life, whether it's a conventional career in public, or in a company somewhere, or along the lines of faith, nothing beats having the blessing of God over your life.
That's right.
Even if there are moments where you're probably not walking, as righteously as probably you should. God is faithful. God is faithful, and He's merciful, and He will always have grace for us if He sees that we have a pure heart and that our intentions, right? Because He reads the minds, right?
Oh, yeah.
He knows the intentions of the heart, and I think that's probably what's preserved me along the way, despite me not being a faithful follower at all times in life, right? He's been faithful to me, and he's been kind, because deep down inside, He probably saw that I was genuine, that I really wanted to do His will, but maybe I was suffering with some weaknesses in my life.
Yes.
You know?
Well, brother, I know everybody asks me that, so your dad's a pastor, he's getting older. Do you take over after that? I was like, well, it kind of doesn't work that way, kind of, sort of, but
Right.
never say no, never say
Yeah,
never.
yeah.
And so, I don't know, it's the leader of men. That's what you do. So you never know
Yeah.
if the Lord calls you maybe to that.
Yeah, no, so, and I'll say something about that. We didn't spend a lot of time at Davis Mountain. We spent 11 months. That was cut short. That was supposed to be a 3-year assignment at the staff as a foreign area officer. So I was just getting my feet wet there. But something happened, right? Somebody forgot something, and they forgot to code me as soon as I had arrived to Davis Mountain, that had been newly assigned. So my name was put into the hat, if you will, for command, and the board saw that, and they tagged me they selected me for command, which is a huge honor as an officer, to be able to command a squadron. Huge honor. And so we were assigned to Goodfellow, and we came here. We had visited about 6 or 7 churches by the time that we came to Primera Church here in San Angelo, and we were looking again for like a bilingual church, so that our kids could have the Spanish language as part of their church community and whatnot. And your parents, they were just awesome from the first moment. I praise God for Brother Robert Cuellar and Sister Olga. Your parents, man. We came a Sunday morning, and they were so kind. They were so kind, and they were like, "What are you guys doing?" And nothing. It's like, "Why don't you come eat with us?"
Yeah.
And sure enough, I thought we were gonna eat with them. And he's like, "Well, let's go to Henry's."
Yeah.
So we show up. We're like, "Okay, we'll go." And man, your whole family was there.
Yeah, I think so.
And so we were, we were taken aback, and we were honored by the fact that your family would include us in their, after church lunch, and then, your dad said, well, what are you guys doing on Thursday night? I think this was Wednesday when we came to church
Hmm.
to Bible study. He's like, what are you guys doing tomorrow evening? And we're like, nothing really. He's like, why don't you come to the house and we'll make some food for you?
Hmm.
And I kid you not, man. I was praying. I wanted the Lord to lead us to a good church. And because I didn't want to go through what we had gone through in Tucson, I made the selection for the church.
Hmm.
And I was like, this is where we're going to go. And there was so much infighting. And I was like, I wanted that group buy-in from
Right.
my family. And so when we had such a beautiful time, such a beautiful time with brother and sister. That Thursday night, they made a wonderful meal. And when I was praying, I said, God, I feel that this is it. But I wanted to hear it from the family,
Right.
right? And we get into our vehicle and we're going to drive back home. And everybody's just bubbling over.
Well,
They're so
that's good.
blessed. And I mean, even the kids. The kids were like, wow. They're like grandpa and grandma,
Yeah. Hmm.
you know? And I was like, wow, this is great. I said, so do you guys feel comfortable with going to church there? And they're like, yeah.
Oh, man,
And at
that's
that moment,
awesome.
I was like, this is it, It's like anytime if they're upset, I'm going to be like, hey, you remember, you're part of this
That's
decision.
right.
So, yeah, we've been so blessed to be here at Primera for 2.5 years. Brother, the church, the entire church, and brother and sister, man, they've been just the best. Just the best.
Well,
We're so
brother,
blessed.
you've also been able to. You've also had the opportunity, like me, brother, when Pastor had his medical issues, and
Yeah.
what did we cover for him for a
Yeah.
couple months, 2 or 3 months? Remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
So was that the most you ever spoke or preached at?
Yeah. So I actually that was the first time to do it in
Oh, was
in
it
many
really?
years. In
Okay.
many years, yeah, I had when I was 16 years old. Again, going back to my friend Alex Flores, we were so on fire for Jesus. We were, yeah, and we were like, man, we got to do something because we didn't have opportunities really to preach at church because we're so young. We're young teenagers. We were like, well, maybe we can preach it around the community.
Hmm.
And so I remember our first place we went was near the San Jacinto College North Campus. And we're like, well, let's go to this HEB and we'll stand out front and preach. And he was like, well, you're going to go ahead and preach. So I was like, oh, shoot. Thanks, man. Okay. Lord, I'm in your hands.
Right.
And I remember I was talking about, Noah and how Noah, was telling the people, to, like, get ready and
The
whatnot.
flood's coming.
The
Yeah.
flood's coming, the flood, right? And Noah, what was it, like, I don't know how many years, it was like over 100 years or something, 120 years of building the ark, right? That he's preaching and working, apparently. And nobody is saved but his family, right? Everybody else is taken away by the flood. But I'm out there and I'm preaching this. And I'm just telling people as they're walking in and out and hoping that, will resonate with somebody. And then the store manager comes out. He's like, hey, sorry, guys, but you can't be preaching here. You're going to have to,
Yeah,
you're
did
gonna
they?
have to walk away. So I had to wrap it up quickly. And we're like, okay, we need to change our strategy. We can't be going to stores. That doesn't work. And then we were like, well, you know what? You know where we can go? We can go to apartment complexes. And we can do that. And so that's what we started doing. We would go to
Wow.
these apartment complexes, poor part of town. And we'd knock on doors and stuff. We'd be like, hey, look, in about 5 minutes, we're going to be down there. We're going to be sending a short message. And going back to that first love, when you have that first love for Jesus, you don't care, man.
That's right.
You just want to share the word, right?
Mhm.
And I think God has blessed us because we had a good heart,
Yeah.
because we really loved him. And believe it or not, about 6 months later of us doing that, the church actually started taking it on.
There you go.
Yeah, so it started growing within the youth group in our church to the point where even some of the older gentlemen that were going through the Bible Institute would come out. And, my dad plays the accordion. Sometimes he'd come out with his accordion. And this was Sunday, after lunch. We have our morning AM church Bible Sunday school, have lunch, and then go preach, and then, maybe rest an hour, if that, and then go back for the evening service.
Wow.
So we would do that for the community on Sundays. But the Lord's been good, man.
Full circle.
So, yeah. And that kind of opened up, some opportunities in some of the churches for us to be able to, share the word.
Just as young people.
As young people.
men.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Well, bro, thanks for sharing your story, my brother. And it's gonna, God's not done with us, right?
No, he's not.
All
He's
right.
not. He has a lot. There's so much. The fields are ready, he says, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's
Yeah.
like, the fields are ready. We need workers,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And that's the challenge, I think.
Yes, sir. And as our world is going, you don't know how much longer we have. So we really have to make those days count.
Absolutely, yes.
So you have an awesome story, my brother, but God's not done with you.
Amen.
So we know that. But thanks for being here, bro. And maybe we can do this again.
Yeah, thank you.
Soon?
It's an honor. And, I just want to say, I thank God. This is all God. This is not me. This is not you. It's not anybody. This is all God.
That's right.
It's His Spirit that moves. And that's what we want in our life, is for His Spirit to move us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, let's try and do this again. Definitely. Okay, my brother.
Absolutely. Thank you, brother.
Well, I appreciate it. And I guess we'll tell everybody bye.
Okay.
All right. Let me
Y'all
give you
take
another
care.
hand. There you go. All right, my brother. Well, we'll do it again, okay?
All right, brother.
God
bless
bless.
you.